Welcome, everyone. We will begin the webinar on damage repair preparation. This training will earn you 1 ICAR credit for non-structural. I'm Melissa Joles with RDA Impact. Dennis Beardsley, North American Training Manager, and Kevin Creegan, National Accounts for Saint-Gobain, are your presenters today. The presentation will take approximately 40 minutes. At the end of the presentation, we will send you a test which you will need to complete and email back to Dennis with your ICAR information. We will include instructions. We are recording the presentation and will post it on our YouTube channel. If you have questions during the webinar, you can type them in the chat box at the bottom right of your screen, and they will be answered during the presentation. Now I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing today? I hope everyone is safe and well. Thank you for joining, taking time out of your busy day to attend this damage repair preparation training through ICAR. Just a quick note or two about the RSG Group, Refinish Solutions Group. If you're not aware, the RSG Group now includes Norton, Carborundum, Frekla, Solar Guard, American Tape, DeVilbiss, Lord Fuser, and Hutchins. Hutchins and Frekla were recent members joining the RSG team last fall, and we couldn't be happier to have those great product lines included in our product offerings. So this officially is damage repair preparation, the Saint-Gobain product manual 00002. So let's talk a little bit about the disclosures, get this stuff out of the way. It's a policy of Saint-Gobain Abrasives to fully disclose to all participants in this course that Saint-Gobain is the provider of curriculum used in the course. Refinish Solutions Group, an initiative of Saint-Gobain Abrasives, sells the products that are taught and used in this course. On antitrust basis, we are not live for the most part, but we do follow the Combines Act, which protects free trade. There should be and will be no discussion on pricing, times, or labor rates, and also no discussion on how a body shop or collision repair business particularly conducts their business. You may or may not know that Saint-Gobain is now a sustaining partner under the ICAR group. As a sustaining partner, we support ICAR's vision and mission, delivering the latest repair training knowledge, and that includes across the country to every technician. We believe in doing the right thing for the industry by helping deliver complete, safe, and quality repairs to the ultimate benefit of our families, friends, and our neighbors. For those of you who are not quite, not as familiar with the ICAR Sustaining Partner banner, it's the latest and greatest in a long-term evolution at ICAR. Those of you who have been around for a number of years might remember in the past that ICAR used to have a point-based system, and then when they introduced the professional development program around 5 or 6 years ago, went to an hours-based system, and now under the Sustaining Partner program, basically we offer to the industry as a sustaining partner training for free. There is no charge for attending the ICAR training under this program that is administered by Saint-Gobain, and I encourage you to encourage your customers to take advantage. Great resource. So as a sustaining partner, we're able to offer reduced training costs. We help keep those costs low and encourage shops to continue or even increase their training to stay current with today's complex vehicles. We also have reduced school fees. As a sustaining partner, we provide financial support to allow more schools to run the programs that develop better trained entry-level technicians. And finally, we are committed to provide safe repairs. As a partner, we provide those resources to help ICAR develop and deliver the training and services that are needed for safe repairs. ICAR has long been dedicated and committed to repairing vehicles right. ICAR believes, and we believe as well, that trained shops are better partners overall. ICAR studies show that their gold class shops outperform non-gold class shops in terms of cost to repair and overall metrics and KPIs. Gold class shops also have the knowledge and skills that contribute to complete, safe, and quality repairs. Liability can be reduced as well as expenses by supporting the Sustaining Partner Program. We allow ICAR basically to supply the information and training the industry needs to perform complete, safe repairs. That puts customers back on the road safely, quickly, and reduces the potential liability faced by automakers, insurance, and repairers. Testing. There will be a test at the end of this course. It's a brief 10-question test. Passing this test will allow the student to receive a certificate of completion from ICAR. Any questions as to your individual eligibility for this test under the professional development program at ICAR should be directed to ICAR. They're in the best position to understand what your particular competency is, whether it's a metal structural technician, aluminum structural technician, refinish technician, or an estimator. They are in the best position to guide you in terms of whether this will actually provide continuing training credit based on your competency. Passing the test will allow the student to apply for an ICAR credit that says 2. That's actually a typo. This will be a 1-hour virtual class, so it will entitle you to attend to receive 1 additional hour of ICAR credit. Safety reminder. Probably 6 or 8 months ago, unless you worked in the medical field or you worked in the collision repair industry or automotive repair industry, you might not understand what PPE is. PPE these days is pretty much a household expression, and PPE definitely applies to the proper use of our products at Saint-Gobain. Whether they're adhesives or aerosols, you always want to practice safe work habits. Wear the proper safety equipment, keep sparks and flames away from the area, and make sure you're cognizant about skin contact. You should have a long sleeve shirt if you're going to be working in the shop. And I know that's not always the most comfortable situation, but it can provide a measure of protection against sparks and against splashing of caustic materials. Wear gloves to avoid contact, and you should wear gloves even though you may not have had a prior incidence or a prior aversion to a particular chemical, because one can develop over time. Finally, when it comes to eye contact, flush immediately with water. Most shops and training facilities, for that matter, have a eye wash station, and you definitely want to get water on your eye as soon as possible if you do experience any eye contact. Finally, contact your physician as soon as possible. The objectives of this course are we're going to talk a little bit about protecting the interior, in assessing vehicle damage, disassembly of the damaged area, We'll talk a little bit about double-sided tape applications for reinstallation, surface prep, dent pulling, our rules for stepping up your grits, and finally feather edging and masking will all be covered in this course. Okay, Dennis, I think I want to turn things over to you now. I may chime in from time to time, but you've got the helm.
Excellent. So to the slide right there, right? This has become more and more important, to Kevin's point, in the last 120 days or less, right? The customer is going to really care how that car is cared for when it's being serviced, right? It's, you know, the mats, the steering wheel covers, the shifter covers, that customer wants to be ensured that they're going to be healthy as they were when they dropped it off, as when they're going to pick the vehicle up, right? And I know a lot of shops out there are doing extra precautions to cleanse that vehicle. We just want to make sure that, you know, this is so important to the end user. I'd want to make sure that that's going to happen. You know, it's a whole process, right? Go ahead, Kim. So we want to start with, you know, when we looking at the vehicle damage and, you know, we're assessing it, we want to first wash the vehicle down. So important. And I know everybody understands the importance of that. It's when we get stressed or very busy that gets skipped. And the reason we do that is for discovery, and it's also to protect the shop. You know, when I was in the shop, I've watched this one where, you know, you deliver the vehicle and at the end, that dent was never there. I'm sure Kevin, you've seen that one too. You know, making sure that we're able to discover it, making all of our on-vehicle notes with a water-based marker, and then we want to inspect the clean vehicle to capture it all. It's much easier to capture the damage when it's clean versus dirty. So.
Yeah, the shop might not be working on a vehicle damaged quite this severely, but you definitely want to make sure that you complete a thorough damage assessment.
Absolutely, right. It's so important. You know, I'm up in the north, right? So I'm in upstate New York, and we get a lot of snow and salt, and it's that salt and dirt and so on will hide dents there. So we want to make sure that we capture everything, be it part of the loss or not part of the loss, but at least we understand which is and which isn't, right? We want to disassemble the damaged area. We want to disassemble with, and you know, some people call it tear down, disassemble, meticulous disassembly, however the word track is. We want to make sure we discover all the damage right then, all right? So that the correct parts are ordered once and not, you know, several times, right? Because that slows down the trip or the flow of the car, okay? So we want to make sure that we remove damaged trims, moldings, so on and so forth. We have a slide down the road of and I'm just going to talk about this one right here. That's great if we remove this molding, but it's always a good idea to go ahead and retape this thing right now versus downstream. And the reason for that is, do we have enough tape? Do we have enough adhesion remoter? Do we have, you know, there's so many things going into this car. Do we have all those things, right, Kevin? Excellent.
Coming up.
Next. Yeah. It's
a little bit of a delay.
It's okay.
And try it again. You got it?
Not yet. Okay. Double-sided tape application. Okay. And I'm going to turn my attention down. I'm going to move my camera. Sorry, folks. Hopefully you don't get seasick with me doing this stuff. This is a great example. All right. We want to make sure we strip off any of the old double-sided tape. We do not want to use any solvent on it. Make sure we wear our proper PB&E. Okay. And we want to make sure that we get this properly get the adhesion motor on it, right? If we don't do that, okay, what will happen is we run the risk of it not adhering, right? And that's not going to work out. So right here, apply it right there. Make sure that we grab whatever size that we need. This is a new factory grade attachment tape that we have. We here at Saint-Gobain are a supplier of OEMs double-sided tape, and we let this flash, which it's almost there. Okay, and then we apply our double-sided tape. And we can see that and that. Now, if I go down farther here, where I didn't apply any, the adhesion is going to be marginal, okay? So we want to make sure that we have good adhesion motor on there. We let that set up, and now we're ready to go for reassembly, right, Kevin?
Yeah, and the whole objective here is that in the proper prep and proper cleaning, and even if the parts, you know, as you're taking the parts off on your tear down, is to avoid delays in delivery. You know, there's nothing more frustrating to a customer than to be ready to pick their car up on a Thursday or a Friday and to be told that, you know, a molding is broken or a molding needs, you know, to be attached and they need to wait. So this just ensures that it's going to be done right the first time, every time.
The other thing is, when you do put this molding on, all right, is apply, you know, 3 to 5 pounds of pressure to make sure you have it on there. Just don't plop it on and go, and then you'll be good to go. Also, another feature here is it's gray. I don't know if I can get this with the camera. We're going to give it a whirl. We're going to give it the college try. You can see a gray right there. That will match the OEM color versus another colorants. Okay.
I got your next slide up there, Dennis.
Oh, thank you. All right, flying along. Awesome. You want to make sure you clean the repair area, right? First, with a waterborne cleaner followed by a solvent. We actually have a surface degreaser here, which is nice in an aerosol. We want to make sure we remove any paint surface right with the, we'll go right down here, the surface conditioning disc or file belt or whatever you're trying to do. And we want to make sure that we don't over process the vehicle. And what I mean by that is, if we're going to show you in a few slides down, removal of a dent. If you're removing the coating, right, I would rather start with something that's going to leave an 80 grit mark versus a 36, right? That 36 is going to leave a very coarse, deep gouge that we're going to need to remove, and many products are not going to be able to fill that. So we just want to make sure that the product that we choose doesn't doesn't mean that we over process and spending too much time on it, right? Because we want to make sure that we use our time the best way and use the best products that we can. Okay.
Yeah, and with panels as thin as they are these days, ultra high strength steel and high strength steel, it doesn't take too much grinding or overzealous grinding before a technician can get themselves into jackpot. So that's really important point that Dennis was making there.
Mm-hmm. Great point. Yep. So now we're going to do some dent pulling. All right. Now I have an older dent puller. Yes, we can use adhesives. No, I don't want to hear comments about that. But this is something I just wanted to show right here. I got a dent right here, Kevin. And half of this dent I'm going to show with a surface conditioning disc, and the other half I'm going to do with 36. Kevin, what I'm going to do though when I start this, so I don't make you guys go all deaf, I will mute my phone just to make sure that I don't make everybody go deaf because this stuff is loud, right? So I load it up. I'm going to do the 36 first. Stop, have a conversation, and then I'm going to do the surface conditioning disc, which is going to leave an 80 grit scratch, so versus a 36. All right. So here we go. I'm going to mute my phone.
So while Dennis is doing that, I'll talk through this a little bit. Again, it's important that the right tool and the right combination of abrasives are chosen to get the job done, but not necessarily cause additional work in the blend area of the repair.
Absolutely. This is with 36, and you notice I can't get all the way down. Again, I don't know if the camera can capture that, but I can assure you that there's still pain in the center of that dent. This surface conditioning disc is going to help me get that cleaned out, because all I want to do is get it to bare steel, or if it's aluminum, okay, if it's aluminum, I'm going to grab this guy right here, which I'm going to come to the screen. I'm going to grab that guy and go right to the aluminum piece, right? The tool has to be dedicated to it, right? But this does a phenomenal job on aluminum, gets that contact. This is a great one on steel. So I'm going to put myself back on mute.
And again, as we go through the process there, once we get the surface prep, then we're going to use our dent puller, whether it's glue or whether it's a manual tool or whether it's a little more conventional tool like you see in the image there. Either method is going to work just fine. But if there's residue or pin studs left on the panel, they've got to be removed, because that's just going to end up causing you extra time on your refinish, or preparation for finish. Excuse me.
All right, before I slam the hammer, I'm going to remove the dent real quick. Just a quick, I'm not going to make it perfect, but just a good illustration of the prep of it. So I'm going to put myself back on mute.
And now what he's doing is basically abrading the surrounding surface so he gets it as reasonably as level as possible.
So I'm going to stop there. So what I did to cut it off right? I could have had a set of dikes, but I use an 80 grit, right? So I'm not really destroying this top surface right here, right? Now with this 36 here, I'm going to be fighting that. I have 36 grit into the coating. I got it into the steel. You know, I would hit this little area, this low spot right here with another stud, but that's not as important, right? As take a look at this pre-done one, right? Doing the cooking show thing, Kevin. So I've already got filler here, and I put it on high. Notice here, even though I feather edged with 80 grit, you can see that right there. I still have that 36 grit grind marks right there. You see that, Kevin?
I can see that fairly well anyway, and this might be a good time to start talking about preparation and stepping up the grit.
Absolutely. So, see, I'm going to be fighting that right there. See if I can. All right. Where the 80 grit, where I use the, where I use the conditioning disc, we're good to go. So, speaking of the grit rules, right? We want to move in 100 grit increments, right? 100 grit increments. And whatever your paint manufacturer says to do, folks, that's what you do. You know, but you know, we're the sandpaper experts. That's what we do. And we say, if you're going to move, okay, so if you start with 80 grit right here, it's 100 grit. So you can go 180, you can start at 100, 120. We don't care where you start as long as you're comfortable in what you're doing. You're using 100 grit increments, so 80, 180, 220, 320, and depending on what the paint manufacturer says to do or use, 320 or 400. Now, always look up in their P sheets, in their product bulletin sheets, what they want. They may want, you know what, 220 is good for us. Great, that's what you're going to finish with, right? Some of them may say, you know what, we want to finish with 400, but you certainly can't go from a 180 to a 400, right, Kevin? That's just not gonna work.
No, you're gonna have sand scratches that come back in there. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you're gonna be fighting it, right? So, so you want to move in 100 grit increments up to 400, and then when you get to 400, right? There's a great example right there. So you have the dent, right? And I would attack this dent right here. I have filler. I would hit this with 80. Coarser the paper, right? Flatter the job. And then I move up from there, right? So I can go 80, 180, for example, 220, 320, and 400 on that outer edge. And I would love to prime onto 400 versus, you know, stray 80 grit scratches, or actually even stray 36 grit scratches. That's not going to end very well, and I would not be happy if that was my vehicle being worked on. I'm just saying.
Gotcha.
What's the next slide there?
This just talks about the grit rules for finer sanding.
Absolutely. So once we get to 400, we can move in 200 grit increments. 200 grit increments, right? So 4, 6, 8, 1,000 in that order, right? And it's so important to make sure that we, you know, again, we can't move from a 400, right? And I got 800 behind me. You know, you can't do that. You need the grit, you need the 600 between it to make sure you refine those scratches. And that's really the key, right? Average age of technician. Do you know what that age is, Kevin? I'm getting there.
The average age?
Yeah.
I think the average age is still hovering in the late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah, 52. I'm closing. I'm closing on it. And what happens? I'm going to humble right here. See these? Can't see that they're bifocals, but they are. Okay. That's what happens, right? I do a lot of welding facilitations and welding trainings out there, and you'd be surprised what folks that need the cheaters, and I do too. I'm in that class too. So my point is, into here, I can't see those stray scratches unless I have the glasses on. So just make sure that you can see what you have there. Just speaking from personal experience. All right. Once you get to 1,000 grit, you can move up in 500 grit increments. So you can go, Kevin, you can go to 1,000, 15, and up to 2,000 grit. All right. And then when you get up to 2,000 grit, you can move in 1,000 grit increments. So the finer it gets, the bigger the increment is, right? So that's when we get into our final sanding, right? Anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 is our final sanding, all right, after we've painted the vehicle. So we want to make sure that we keep these rules in mind. These are very important rules to live by, and we want to make sure that we keep them in mind when we do our job and we develop our plan and our standard operating procedures for what we do every day.
And again, the paint manufacturer's recommendations are going to trump all. They're slightly different from one manufacturer to the next, but when it gets down to it, they're the ones that test the abrasives and test the performance of materials to be compatible with their sanding, sealer, primer, base coat, top coat. So you always want to fall back on what they're recommending. As Dennis mentioned, the P pages or the various recommendations by the paint manufacturers that are given.
So I talked about feather edging prior. I'm going to hit this again. Right, the idea of the feather edge right here is to ensure that the paint or body filler has a smooth transition that the eye can't pick up. So you want to transition it out, and, you can see the E-coat, the sealer, the base coat, and clear coat on here. You just want to ensure that it has a nice smooth transition so you can apply either filler or primer filler or whatever coating that you're doing. But you want to make sure that you have this down. I've seen some training opportunities through the years on this, so this is something that we thought was important to hit and address. Masking. All right. So when you first start masking, right, make sure, the whole purpose of this is to make sure that no overspray touches the vehicle that we don't want it on, right? So, windows and openings and handle openings and all sorts of areas, glass, lights, trim, whatever, we want to make sure that we're protecting that. We want to use, if as you can see there, fine line tape. If we need, for instance, two tones, like on bumpers, we're seeing two different types of colors. That's probably the most common where we use fine lines these days. All right. Go ahead, next slide.
And as Dennis is talking about that, remember in this case, a good masking job, it's like a pound of or an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure here. It's a lot easier to do it right on the front end and make sure that you do a good masking job and than try and have a whole bunch of overspray to have to clean up off of glass or moldings or a surrounding panel for that matter.
Yeah, that's labor. So we want to outline the area with masking paper, right? most folks use 1.5" tape, and you notice I made a little tab here. I love that little tab. I'm never searching for my tape. Each time I'm done, I fold it over, and that's good to go right there. Never searching for it. When I grab it, it's ready to go. All right. We want to make sure that everything is covered, and we want to make sure that everything is dry. That's a test question. Before we attach tape or masking paper or plastic to the vehicle. Please, please, please. All right. All right. So we want to use lift tapes. All right. If it's harder and harder on modern day cars to, they're tighter fitting moldings, Kevin, right? But you can still do it. And we have some really, really awesome tools to be able to do that, right? We can, well, I got it right here. So let's just use it. Fortunately, folks, I don't have a car here. I'm good, but I'm not that good, right? So this right here is our lift tape. And what it does is you can manipulate this. You can tear it off if you want. You can, because it's perforated. So depending on what you got, right, Kevin, you can fold it like that.
It's great for cornering.
Fold it again.
And edges.
Yep. Corners feel good. Folds and yeah, works good. Works really good. So that's another option there versus if you can avoid, if it makes more sense to pull the glass or not. That's always going to be your decision. All right. Protect the jams, body. You want to make sure you keep the paint out of where you want to keep it out of. To Kevin's point earlier, you don't want to be cleaning up areas that have overspray in it. It seems like, it always happens when it's 90 degrees and everything's cooking on it and really starting to set up real good. So you don't want to make a day project out of it. So we want to make sure we protect it, be it with masking paper, masking tape, lift tape, plastic and paper.
So within the American brand of tapes, we offer several different grades and sizes and shapes, anything from a 1/2 inch all the way up to 2 inch into OM, AM, Aquamask, UG, PG, and MP tapes. They all have slightly different temperature ranges. They all corner exceptionally well. And super good quality tapes. If you've not used them, if you're not giving them a try, you really need to take them for a test drive. Dennis, you got this one?
Yeah. You want to make sure, right? You can wreck tape. I'm jumping all the way down to the storage because it's, in this area today, Kevin, it's pushing 85 degrees, right? I would not want to have tape that's been 100 degrees or more in a car. It's gonna hurt the lifespan of it, right? So you want to make sure that your storage is in a nice, as cool as possible area, and you don't want it too cool either. You don't want it in a cold area. That will wreck the shelf life of a tape, right? So storage in a cool area. You want to remove it in a 90-degree angle, right? And the key is with tape is when you test it, you want to make sure. Well, rip a few pieces here. Does it stick to itself? Does it work real good on that? Right? When I push it down, is it going to come up on this? No, absolutely not. Nothing's coming up on this. Paint is going to go to it. It's not going to lift it up. The solvent's not going to attack it. All right. We want to tape our edges. You want to have a tape like this one that can roll around that edge real nice, and it's not going to be moved. It's not going to move. You want to make sure it's clean, and we're not attaching to dirt because the tape will stick to the dirt, right? So where it just grounds, right? And you can see the dirt. So it did a great job, right? But that's not going to help us. We want it cleaned. In some cases, you may have to clean it with an alcohol base, a water-based material, whatever the contaminant is on there. You want to get that off before you apply your tape, and then you want to make your little tab because I like doing that, and then we're good to go.
So a couple final words about tape. Tape basically is it's a type of an adhesive. It uses an adhesive on the back side of it. And I know a few things about adhesives, having worked in that sector in my career, and tape is no different. Because it is an adhesive, you want to make sure that you maintain, about a 50% or so relative humidity, not much more than that. Otherwise, it'll start to absorb moisture. You want to maintain about 70-degree Fahrenheit temperature for the maximum shelf life and storage. And finally, you may or may not know this, but the American brand of tapes, all of the adhesive contained within those various product lines are compatible with other grades. That is, the OM is compatible with the AM, is compatible with the GT, is compatible with the UG. That doesn't cross over from one brand to the next. So if you ever have a customer telling you, oh, this tape won't stick to this tape, and there happen to be two conflicting brands, that could be one of the reasons why. So just a little additional tape information or information on tape, interesting facts, fun facts on tape, if you will.
To Kevin's point, right? Follow the paint manufacturer's recommendation. Remove all tape and paper immediately after the car is painted. Inspect if there's any defects, repair paint defects if needed be, right? Maybe polishing, maybe removal of any dirt, then final detail inspect, and then deliver the vehicle. Something I wanted to talk about that I did miss, Kevin, is I'm going to put this right down here too. Okay. You notice our paper has a P grading, and any paint to paint manufacturer's recommendation, the paint manufacturer is going to say to use a P graded paper. So not just the grit rule, but make sure you follow what they say and be specific. If they say use and finish with a P320 or a P400, that's what you're going to do. Okay. If it doesn't have a P rating, that means it's not in the standard, and it's something else, right? So just be aware of what they're wanting. Just reminded me of that.
Good point. Great point. So after you've got all the paint defects removed, if required, of course, and you've got it to your final detail and inspection, then go ahead and absolutely go ahead and deliver that vehicle, with the goal being, to get those to the highest CSI marks as possible. I think we actually covered this slide earlier. We skip that one. So, Dennis, you want to bring us on home?
Sure. So, at the end of this, I believe your distributor can get you the test, and you'll get the iCar credit. All you have to do is submit the test to me, Dennis.Beardsley at Saint-Gobain.com. I need a legible last name, and I need a correct iCar ID. If I do not have that, I cannot process the paperwork. I apologize, but that's what I need to be able to do that. And that is as simple as that for this.
And Dennis has probably greatly underestimated how simple this new process is. If you've got the completed test and you have your iCar ID, it literally flies through. It's an electronic submission that Dennis will basically undertake, and it literally flies through the approval process. And typically, I don't want to make outlandish claims here, but what in the past has perhaps taken as long as maybe 60 to 90 plus days for completion is just flying through the process now inside of a week or two at the very most. So it's a great process improvement that iCar has undertaken, and of course we're very happy to be part of that process. So additional ways in which we can help: technical support line 1-866-879-3761. Our customer service also toll-free number 1-800-456-8444. We really have appreciated your time and attention this afternoon. If you will complete the corresponding test for this module, and Melissa will have those tests and can distribute them to you, we can go ahead and process the registrations and get you the credit that you so richly deserve. Are there any questions before we adjourn? Melissa, maybe you could help us out there.
Okay, well, we don't have any questions, and I just wanted to reiterate that I will follow up by sending everyone the test. I got it from Dennis. It'll have information on, with his email, where to send it, and it's very clear that it asks for your iCar ID number, your first and last name. You can fill it out online, so you can type it. If you choose to print it, fill it out and scan it and send it to Dennis, that's fine too, but as he said, make it legible. We really appreciate you guys doing this for us. We'll follow up with everybody on future training opportunities.